Dutch farmers form Freedom Convoy to protest government's strict environmental regulations. The Dutch farmers formed their own kind of Canada's Freedom Convoy, in which they blocked highways with tractors, set fires to hay bales, and taking some other actions to protest against the government's plans to cut emissions, which would lead to formidable closures of some farms. Approximately 40,000 protesters got together in central Netherlands to object plans to control nitrogen and ammonia emissions. Even after weeks passed by, the protests has continued throughout the country with no signs of termination. There are photos and videos which shows farmers blocking roads near Germany's border, where some reporters joined the protests themselves. All of these protests caused hundreds of businesses in 3 different towns to shut down because of 3 distinctive protests. This was reported by The Guardians. There were videos of Dutch supermarkets which disclosed them running out of food. Under these proposals of governments to rise costs and government putting restrictions on livestock numbers and fertilizer use to cut emissions, farmers would have to considerably decrease the amount of ammonia and nitrogen emissions their livestock yield, which would ultimately cause many farms to downsize and some to shut down. Farmers addressed to the issue and told they were unfairly aimed by the programs, while other businesses like aeronautics, construction, and transportation has also contributed to emissions and face less regulations. The farmers also claim that they weren't given a clear view of their future in terms of the reforms. Moreover, it is impossible for farmers to get rid of their stocks while keeping their land. The government is aiming to build houses for immigrants on their land. As if it wasn't enough, the government passed a new law that says one has to house an immigrant to give them food. Mind you, it's not voluntary, but on demand. After all this, hundreds of farmers held a protest in Poland who carried anti-government posters and placards, and they hollered, "Enough is enough. We won't let ourselves be robbed, and we workers cannot pay for the crisis created by politicians." On 6th of July, German farmers gathered and united with their companion farmers to block roads on the border of Dutch-German. The Italian farmers have also held the same tractor protests in some rural places and also threatened to advance their protests to the streets of Rome. There was a video which highlighted farmers gathering in some rural areas, reported one farmer shouting, "We are not slaves, we are farmers, we cannot make ends meet." This country is one of the major agricultural producers in the world, which exported about $97 billion worth of fruits, vegetables, dairy products, and meat in this year. If you ask me now, don't think about it either, mentioned dairy farmer Jaap Zegwaard about if we should encourage the younger generation to farm. "I have a lot of worries. Life is so beautiful that I can't deal with what's happening in the agricultural sector right now." Dutch fishermen have also taken part in the protest, blocking the ports located in Harlingen with draggers. This was reported by Euronews. The march has spread worldwide. The Rolling Stones frontman gave a shout-out to the farmers at his concert. The protest got ever more attention when police shoot a 16-year-old farmer driving a tractor during the protest. The young farmer apparently moved his truck towards the police. He was first caught on the suspicion of attempted murder, but was later let go without charge. According to the police, not a single person was injured in the incident. However, most of the protests have been nonviolent, with farmers handing out food and coffee. This was taking place about 60 miles east of Amsterdam as people cleared the route in respect of 2 funerals. There are perfectly affordable measures that can reduce emissions, but the government simply don't want to do that. It reduces their profits, and in the endless greed, they can't accept that. Somehow, it's a world against them, completely ignoring that all industries are dealing with climate change. We need enough food production for competition to exist and prices to remain reasonable. We need quality food too. Nutrition, health matter. If food production is frozen or significantly slowed down, it will have calamitous results. Farmers are also angry that they are being targeted by pretty strong reducing laws for their income, while big corporations still don't pay taxes or need to do anything about CO2 emissions, because a safe environment for companies keeps the economy up. In the past few days, the cause has been embraced by Dutch politicians, Geert Wilders, and far-right movements around the world. The protests have expanded to include the people in favor of numerous anti-government causes to turn apprehended Dutch farms to automated authoritarian supercities. There are also calls for supporters to donate to the movement, which is directing people to fundraising sites. One factor of the Dutch protest is that they are different, as they are a form of resistance to climate change, offering many countries to a view into their futures as they prepare for global temperatures to keep on increasing. The government has hired an arbitrator to conduct talks between the farmers' organizations and the officials elected to draw up pollution-reducing measures. But because of the Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, the negotiations have led to unrest, which comprises of violence outside the private home of Environmental Minister and also the obstruction at food distribution centers. The government does not offer any space to enter into a real conversation, said the farming organization group LTO. Under these conditions, speaking with a mediator is pointless. The LTO, which advocates for approximately 30,000 farms, described the emission reduction target as simply unfeasible. The Dutch farms are way more crucial, as Dutch farms produce exports worth 94.5 billion euros in previous years. After the United States, the Netherlands is the largest exporter of agricultural production. Organic farms and agriculture care for the environment, as they do not use chemical pesticides. To make organic farms more competitive with regular agriculture, the government signed agreements with supermarkets. The Dutch Confederation of Agriculture and Horticulture, LTO, and other parties for the joint promotion of organic products and wider selection in the shops, which leads to a 10% increase in the sale of organic products. By 2050, the Earth will be home to as numerous as 10 billion people. However, matched by massive diminishments in the use of water and reactionary energies, 1 billion or further people may face starvation if massive increases in agrarian yield aren't achieved. Hunger could be the 21st century most critical problem, and the visionaries working in the food industry believe they've set up innovative results. The wherewithal to stave off disastrous shortage is within reach, Van den Ende claims. His sanguinity rests on feedback from further than 1,000 WER systems in further than 140 countries and on its formal pacts with governments and universities on 6 continents to partake advances and employ them. Innovation as a whole has impacted the Netherlands massively over the years, and it has really aided to drive more modernized farming methods. Over time, the Netherlands really will be farming for future, and proof is in all those stats. The R&D spending of Dutch companies that have over 10 employees boosted by approximately 11%. Companies in the agricultural sector raised by around 19%. From 728 million euros to 864 million euros, marking a vast enhancement in efficiency. These numbers are all the reason why the Dutch farmers continue to fight and protest against the government, as the Netherlands farming is not only important to their country, but to the world as well. Farming Union LTO claimed the proposals were an automatic retort to EU policy and that the effect on Dutch farmers was unfair and unjust. The group supposes targets would lead to the shutting of hundreds of farms, causing hundreds of jobs losses in agriculture and its associated industries. It quarrels that the Dutch food sector is being unfairly targeted because other EU member states face slighter controls. The group says the government is fixated on reducing livestock and buying up farms and not paying enough consideration to innovation and sustainable farming practices. The group pointed out lesser targets on the polluting industries. The government is focused unfairly on agriculture industry. In spite of the protest, the Dutch government led by the Prime Minister accepted the proposals. After the vote, the Netherlands representatives issued a statement which said, "The honest message is that not all farmers will continue in business. Those who do will have to farm differently." Not only the farmers are protesting against the plans of the Dutch government, they find a lot of support by normal people who have enough of the new-made rules that make no sense. Farmers in other countries have also a lot of support from people that are going on the streets protesting against corrupt governments and new laws that have been made. This because the new laws are taking away freedom, food, land, houses, and so on. The farmers are willing to have a non-violent solution. The government is willing to use force to take the land and housing from the people.